What happens when a carefully controlled daytime talk show suddenly slips out of its script, and two powerful voices collide in a moment no one saw coming. The studio lights of The View burn brighter than usual that morning, almost as if they know something is about to shift. The audience settles into their seats, a low hum of anticipation filling the room like static before a storm. The hosts sit poised at the table, smiles practiced, notes neatly stacked, coffee mugs steaming just enough to feel real but not distracting. Everything is as it should be. And then she walks out. Emma Stone doesn't rush. She never does. There's a quiet confidence in the way she moves, measured, deliberate, like someone who understands the weight of every step in a room full of cameras. The audience erupts into applause, but it's not just excitement, it's curiosity. She's been making headlines lately, not just for her performances, but for what she's been saying off-screen. And today she looks different. Not nervous, not rehearsed, ready. Before we go any further, if you love stories like this, the kind that pull you behind the curtain and into the moments no one forgets, make sure you subscribe to Stage View right now. Hit that like button, drop a comment, and stay with us, because what you're about to witness doesn't happen often. Emma takes her seat, crossing her legs, offering a polite smile. The hosts greet her warmly, laughter sprinkled lightly across the table. It starts easy, too easy. "So, Emma," Sunny begins, her tone smooth, practiced. "Your latest project is getting a lot of attention. People are calling it one of your boldest roles yet." Emma nods. "It challenged me in ways I didn't expect. And you've been very vocal lately," Sunny continues, tilting her head slightly. "Not just about your work, but about the industry, about culture. Some would say you've stepped into more controversial territory." There's a flicker, barely noticeable, but it's there. Emma's smile tightens just a fraction. "I think," she replies carefully, "that sometimes the truth feels controversial when people aren't used to hearing it out loud." A soft ripple moves through the audience. Not applause, not discomfort, something in between. Sunny leans back slightly, her eyes sharpening, not aggressively, but with intent. That's interesting, because some critics feel that when celebrities speak on complex social issues, it can come across as oversimplified, even performative. There it is, the first spark. Emma exhales slowly, her fingers resting lightly against her knee. "I think it depends on whether people are actually listening or just waiting to dismiss what's being said." The air shifts. Whoopi glances sideways. Another host adjusts in her seat. The producers behind the cameras exchange quick looks. This wasn't in the notes. Sunny smiles, but it's not the same smile from before. "So you're saying the criticism isn't valid?" "I'm saying," Emma replies, her voice steady but firmer now, "that dismissing someone's perspective because of who they are can be just as limiting as the thing you're criticizing." The audience reacts, this time louder. A mix of claps, murmurs, a few surprised laughs. Sunny doesn't back down. But perspective comes with responsibility, doesn't it? Especially when millions of people are watching. Emma leans forward slightly. "Exactly. Which is why I think it matters to speak honestly, even when it's uncomfortable." There's a pause. Not the kind filled with silence, but the kind filled with thought. Sunny studies her. Not as a host now, but as someone being challenged. "You say honestly," Sunny replies, her tone shifting just enough to signal a deeper turn. "But honesty can look very different depending on where you're standing. And sometimes what feels honest to one person can feel dismissive to another." Emma nods slowly. "That's true." For a moment, it seems like the tension might ease. But then Emma adds quietly, "But that doesn't mean we should stop saying it." The room stills. Sunny's eyebrows lift slightly. Even if it risks hurting people? Emma meets her gaze directly now. Especially then. Because avoiding hard conversations doesn't protect people. It just delays them. A murmur spreads across the audience again, stronger this time. You can feel the divide forming. Some nodding, some shifting uncomfortably. Whoopi leans in slightly, sensing the moment teetering on the edge. But Sunny raises a hand, just enough to hold the floor. "So where's the line?" she asks. "Where does honesty stop being constructive and start becoming harmful?" Emma doesn't answer right away. She takes a breath. And in that breath, you can almost hear the weight of everything she's about to say. "I think the line," she begins slowly, "is whether you're willing to listen after you speak." Sunny tilts her head. "And are you?" Another pause. Another shift. Emma's voice softens, but it doesn't lose strength. "I'm trying to be." The honesty lands harder than anything else she's said. Because it's not defensive. It's real. But Sunny doesn't let go. Trying isn't always enough, she says. Especially when the impact is bigger than the intention. Emma's expression changes, just slightly. Not anger. Not frustration. Something deeper. Then maybe, she says, her voice lower now, we should be having more conversations like this, instead of shutting them down before they even start. That's when the audience reacts, loudly this time. Applause breaks out, but it's uneven. Some clap harder than others. Some hesitate, because this isn't just entertainment anymore. This is something else. Sunny leans forward now, her tone sharpening, not aggressively, but with purpose. And what if the conversation itself is part of the problem? The question hangs in the air like a challenge. Emma doesn't look away. Then we change how we have it, she says. The tension is undeniable now. Two perspectives. Two voices. Neither willing to retreat. The cameras capture everything. The slight tightening of jaws, the flicker of emotion in their eyes, the subtle shifts in posture that reveal just how real this moment has become. Behind the scenes, producers are whispering. Timing cues are being ignored. The segment is running long, but no one is stopping it. Because they can't. Because this is what everyone will be talking about. Sunny exhales slowly, her expression unreadable. You make it sound simple. Emma shakes her head gently. It's not simple. It's necessary. And in that moment, something changes. Not just between them, but in the room. The audience isn't just watching anymore. They're choosing sides. Some leaning forward, fully engaged. Others sitting back, arms crossed, uncertain. Because what started as an interview has become a confrontation. Not loud, not explosive, but something far more powerful. Controlled intensity. The kind that simmers just beneath the surface, waiting for the moment it finally boils over. Sunny glances briefly at the other hosts, then back at Emma. There's a decision in her eyes now. A line she's about to cross. Let me ask you something directly, she says. Emma nods. Okay. Sunny's voice lowers, just enough to draw everyone in. Do you think that sometimes people like you speak from a place of privilege, without fully understanding the realities others face? The question lands like a strike. The audience gasps, soft but unmistakable. Emma doesn't react immediately, but you can see it. The shift. The weight of the moment settling in. And just as she's about to respond, the camera cuts to a wide shot. The room. The tension. The silence stretching just a little too long. Because whatever Emma says next is going to change everything. The silence doesn't just linger, it tightens. You can feel it in the way the audience stops shifting, in the way even the cameras seem to hesitate, holding on Emma Stone's face just a second longer than usual. It's no longer just a question hanging in the air. It's a line drawn, sharp, deliberate. Sunny Hostin doesn't look away. Neither does Emma. For a moment, it feels like time folds in on itself. The bright studio lights suddenly feel harsher, exposing every flicker of emotion, every micro-expression that might otherwise go unnoticed. Emma inhales slowly. You can see her processing, not scrambling for an answer, but choosing one carefully. There's a difference, and everyone in that room knows it. When she finally speaks, her voice is calm, but there's an unmistakable edge beneath it. I think, she begins, that the word privilege gets used in a way that sometimes shuts down conversation instead of opening it. A ripple moves through the audience, quieter this time, but heavier. Sunny doesn't interrupt. She lets Emma continue. Of course I have privilege, Emma adds, her tone steady. I'm aware of that. I don't deny it. But I also think reducing someone's perspective to just that can be dismissive in its own way. Sunny's expression tightens slightly. Dismissive of who? Of anyone who's trying to engage honestly, Emma replies. It creates this idea that unless you've lived every possible experience, you shouldn't speak at all. And do you think that's wrong? Sunny asks, leaning forward just enough to signal she's not letting this go. Emma meets her halfway. I think it's limiting. A few claps break out, scattered, uncertain. Someone in the audience murmurs something under their breath. Another shakes their head. The divide is growing. Sunny folds her hands together on the table. But there's a difference between speaking and speaking over, she says. And some would argue that celebrities, whether intentionally or not, can dominate conversations that aren't really theirs to lead. Emma nods once, acknowledging the point. That's fair, but I don't think the solution is silence. Then what is the solution? Sunny presses. Emma pauses again, but this time it's shorter. Listening, and then speaking with that in mind. Sunny raises an eyebrow. And you believe that's what you've been doing? There's a subtle shift in tone now, less philosophical, more personal. Emma notices it. Yes, she says. I do. Sunny exhales softly, leaning back, but her gaze doesn't soften. Because from where I sit, it can sometimes feel like the listening part gets skipped. A few audience members react audibly, some in agreement, others in quiet disagreement. Emma tilts her head slightly, considering that. I think it's easy to assume that, she says carefully. Especially when you only see a fraction of what someone says or does. Sunny doesn't blink. Or when what they say has a bigger impact than they realize. That lands harder. Emma's fingers tighten slightly against her knee. Just for a second. It's subtle, but the camera catches it. The audience might not notice consciously, but they feel it. Impact matters, Emma agrees. But so does intent. Sunny shakes her head gently. Intent doesn't erase impact. And impact doesn't always reflect intent, Emma counters, her voice just a touch firmer now. The shift is undeniable. This isn't just a discussion anymore. It's a clash of frameworks, two fundamentally different ways of seeing the same issue. Whoopi shifts in her seat, glancing between them, but she doesn't step in. Not yet. Something about the moment feels too important to interrupt. Sunny leans in again, her voice lowering slightly, drawing Emma and the audience closer. Let me ask you this, she says. When people tell you that something you've said has hurt them, do you step back and reconsider? Or do you defend it? Emma doesn't hesitate this time. I listen, she says. But listening doesn't always mean agreeing. Sunny nods slowly. And if the disagreement itself causes more harm? Emma exhales, a hint of frustration finally surfacing. Not explosive, but real. Then we talk about it, she says. That's the whole point. But what if talking isn't enough? Sunny asks, her voice tightening just slightly. What if the harm keeps happening, even after the conversation? Emma's gaze sharpens now. Then maybe the problem isn't the conversation, she says quietly. Maybe it's how we're choosing to interpret it. The audience reacts again, louder this time. A mix of applause and audible pushback. The tension is no longer subtle. It's alive, moving through the room like a current. Sunny's expression changes. Not anger. Not even irritation. Something more focused. More deliberate. That sounds, she says slowly, like you're placing the responsibility on the people who are hurt rather than the person who caused the hurt. Emma's eyes widen just a fraction. That's not what I said. But it's what it implies, Sunny replies, her voice steady. Emma leans forward now, matching Sunny's posture for the first time. No, she says more firmly. What I'm saying is that responsibility goes both ways. Communication isn't one-sided. Sunny shakes her head. When there's a power imbalance, it often is. There it is again. Power. Privilege. Words that carry weight far beyond the studio. Emma holds her gaze. And who decides that imbalance? She asks. Sunny doesn't miss a beat. History does. Systems do. Lived experience does. Emma nods once, acknowledging, but not conceding. I don't disagree with that, she says. But I also think we can't reduce every interaction to those frameworks alone. People are more complex than that. Sunny leans back slightly, crossing one leg over the other, but her focus remains locked. Complexity doesn't erase accountability. And accountability shouldn't erase individuality, Emma responds. The audience reacts again, stronger now. The room feels split, not cleanly, but enough that you can feel the tension from every corner. Behind the cameras, a producer gestures urgently, wrap it up. Another shakes their head. Not yet, because something is building. Something neither side has fully said yet. Sunny's voice softens, but it doesn't lose its edge. You seem very certain, she says. Emma's expression steadies. I'm certain that shutting people down doesn't help. And I'm certain, Sunny replies, that letting harmful narratives go unchallenged doesn't help either. The words hang there. Heavy. Unavoidable. Emma takes a breath. And for the first time, there's a crack, not in her composure, but in the space between certainty and reflection. Then maybe, she says slowly, we're both trying to do the same thing, just in different ways. Sunny studies her. Really studies her. As if trying to decide whether that's an olive branch or a deflection. And what way is that? Sunny asks. Emma's voice softens again, but there's a quiet intensity beneath it. Trying to make things better, she says. A pause. Longer this time. The kind that makes the audience lean in without realizing it. Sunny looks down for just a second, at her notes, at the table, at something unseen, and then back up. And what if, she says carefully, your way is making things worse for some people? The question lands like a final push. Emma's lips part slightly. She's about to answer. You can see it forming, the words, the conviction, the response that could either bridge the gap or widen it beyond repair. But before she can speak, a voice cuts in, not loud, but firm. Whoopi. All right, she says, her tone calm but authoritative. We're going to take a breath for a second. The interruption hits like a sudden break in tension, but it doesn't dissolve it. If anything, it makes it more noticeable. Because now everyone knows. They were right on the edge. The audience exhales collectively, some laughing nervously, others still locked into the moment. Emma leans back slightly, blinking once as if recentering. Sunny sits still, her expression composed, but her eyes still sharp. Whoopi glances between them, then out toward the audience. Y'all feel that? She says lightly, trying to ease the room. A few chuckles ripple through the crowd. But the tension doesn't fully leave. It lingers, because the question Sunny asked still hasn't been answered. And everyone knows. When they come back from this brief pause, it's not over. Not even close. The brief pause doesn't reset the room. It only gives everyone a moment to realize just how far things have already gone. When the cameras settle back into position and the red light flickers on again, the energy is different now. Heavier. Less performative. Whatever this was supposed to be, a routine interview, a light exchange, a promotional stop, it's gone. Replaced by something raw, something unfolding in real time with no script to guide it back. Emma Stone sits straighter now, her hands clasped loosely in her lap. She's composed, but it's a different kind of composure. Less about presentation, more about control. Holding steady in a moment that's slipping into something unpredictable. Sunny Hostin, across from her, hasn't softened. If anything, the pause has sharpened her focus. There's clarity in her expression now, like she's chosen exactly how she wants to move forward. Whoopi glances between them one more time, measuring the air, then gives a small nod. All right, she says. Let's keep going. No jokes this time. No easing back in. Just forward. Sunny turns slightly toward Emma again, her tone quieter than before, but somehow more intense because of it. I want to go back to something, she says. Because I don't think we finished it. Emma nods once. Okay, you said earlier, Sunny continues, that maybe the problem isn't the conversation, but how it's being interpreted. Emma's expression tightens just a fraction. She knows where this is going. I did, she says. Sunny leans forward, resting her forearms lightly on the table. So I want to understand that better, she says. Because from where a lot of people sit, that can sound like you're suggesting that the people who feel hurt are misunderstanding you. The room stills again. Emma inhales slowly, her gaze steady but thoughtful. That's not what I'm suggesting, she says carefully. What I'm saying is that interpretation is shaped by a lot of things: personal experience, emotion, context. And sometimes two people can hear the same thing and walk away with completely different meanings. Sunny nods. That's true. But, Emma adds, her voice gaining a little more weight, that doesn't automatically make one of those interpretations the only valid one. A murmur moves through the audience again, quieter but more concentrated. Sunny's head tilts slightly. So all interpretations carry equal weight? No, Emma says quickly, shaking her head. That's not what I mean either. There's a flicker of frustration now, not at Sunny, but at the narrowing of the space between what she's trying to say and how it's being received. I'm saying, Emma continues, choosing her words with more precision, that there needs to be room to talk through those differences instead of immediately assigning blame. Sunny's gaze doesn't waver. But sometimes blame is appropriate, she replies. Emma meets it head-on. Sometimes it is. And sometimes, Sunny continues, it's necessary in order for people to be held accountable. Emma nods again, slower this time. I agree. The agreement lands, but it doesn't resolve anything. Because they're not disagreeing on the surface. They're disagreeing underneath. On emphasis. On priority. On where the line should be drawn. Sunny leans back slightly, crossing her arms now, not defensively, but deliberately. Then help me understand this, she says. If you agree that accountability matters, why push back when people call out something you've said? Emma's eyes narrow just slightly, not in anger, but in concentration. Because being called out and being understood aren't always the same thing, she says. Sunny's eyebrows lift. Explain that. Emma shifts forward again, her voice more grounded now, less cautious. Being called out can sometimes become about making a statement, she says. Drawing a line publicly. And I get that. I understand why people do it. But understanding someone, really understanding them, requires more than that. It requires conversation, nuance, context. Sunny listens, but there's a tension building again in her posture. And do you think those conversations aren't happening? She asks. I think they're happening less than we think, Emma replies. Or at least they're being overshadowed by louder reactions. A few audience members nod. Others exchange looks. Sunny's tone sharpens just slightly. Or maybe the reactions are loud, because the harm feels loud. The words hit differently this time. Not as a challenge, as a statement. Emma absorbs it. You can see it in the way her expression softens, not in surrender, but in recognition. I don't doubt that, she says quietly. There's a shift. Subtle, but real. For a moment, it feels like the conversation might finally move toward something closer to understanding. But then Sunny leans forward again, her voice steady and direct. But acknowledging that, she says, means acknowledging that the impact of what you say can go beyond what you intended. Emma nods. Yes. And that sometimes, Sunny continues, the people affected by that impact don't have the luxury of treating it like a philosophical discussion. The audience reacts again, this time more unified. A stronger wave of agreement moves through the room. Emma hears it, feels it, and for the first time, there's a visible shift in her posture. Not retreat, but recalibration. I understand that, she says. Sunny watches her closely. Do you? The question isn't hostile, but it's piercing. Emma doesn't answer immediately, because this isn't about a quick response anymore. It's about whether she can meet the moment or not. I think I'm trying to, she says finally. Sunny tilts her head. Trying or succeeding? The pressure tightens again. Emma exhales, a small breath that carries more weight than it should. I don't think anyone gets it right all the time, she says. I know I don't. There's honesty in that. Raw, unpolished honesty. And the audience feels it. But Sunny doesn't let the moment settle. Then what do you do, she asks, when you realize you got it wrong? Emma's gaze drops for just a second, to the table, to her hands, then comes back up. I take responsibility, she says. And what does that look like? Sunny presses. Emma hesitates. Not because she doesn't have an answer, but because she knows whatever she says next will be measured. Analyzed. Held up against everything she's ever said or done. It means listening, she says slowly. It means apologizing if necessary. It means trying to do better. Sunny nods, but there's something unresolved in her expression. And do you think that's enough? She asks. Emma's brow furrows slightly. What do you mean? I mean, Sunny says, her voice tightening just a fraction. Do you think that's enough for the people who were hurt in the first place? The question lands heavier than any before it. Because now it's no longer abstract. It's personal. Emma feels it. The audience feels it. Even the other hosts shift slightly, sensing the conversation narrowing to a point. Emma's voice lowers. I don't get to decide what's enough for someone else, she says. That answer changes something. You can feel it ripple through the room. Sunny's expression shifts, not dramatically, but enough to signal that this is what she's been pushing toward. Then who does? Sunny asks. Emma holds her gaze. They do, she says. A pause. A long one. The kind that stretches just enough to let the weight of that answer settle into every corner of the studio. Sunny leans back slowly, her arms uncrossing now. And if what they decide is that it's not enough, she asks. Emma doesn't look away. Then I have to live with that, she says. The honesty lands. Hard. For a moment, there's no applause. No murmurs. Just silence. Because this isn't about winning anymore. It's about exposure. Of beliefs. Of limits. Of what happens when two people push each other past the safe edges of conversation. Whoopi glances out at the audience again, then back at the table. There's a shift in her expression. Something more serious now, more grounded. But before she can step in, Sunny speaks again. Quieter. Slower. But somehow more intense than anything she's said so far. Do you think, she asks, that people in your position are always willing to accept that? Emma's eyes narrow slightly. What do you mean? I mean, Sunny says, leaning forward one last time, are you prepared for the idea that sometimes no matter what you say, no matter how much you explain, people won't forgive you? The room tightens again. The question isn't theoretical. It's final. Emma sits very still. And for the first time since she walked onto that stage, she doesn't answer right away. Because this question isn't about argument. It's about consequence. And everyone watching knows. Whatever she says next is going to echo far beyond this room. Emma doesn't move. For a second, maybe two, the world outside that table seems to disappear. No cameras. No audience. No broadcast ticking forward by the second. Just the weight of Sunny Hostin's question, hanging there like something permanent. Are you prepared for the idea that people won't forgive you? You can see it in Emma Stone's face. Not panic. Not even fear. But recognition. The kind that comes when a conversation stops being about ideas and starts being about reality. She exhales slowly. And when she finally speaks, her voice is quieter than before, but somehow clearer than anything she said all morning. I think, she begins, then pauses, searching not for the perfect answer, but for the honest one. I think that's already true. The words land like a shift in gravity. The audience doesn't react right away, not because they're uninterested, but because they're processing, feeling it settle. Emma continues, her gaze steady, her tone unguarded now. I think there are already people who don't forgive me, she says. For things I've said, things I've done, or even things they believe I represent. Sunny watches her closely. Not interrupting. Not pushing. Just listening. And I don't get to control that, Emma adds. I don't get to fix it for them. All I can do is decide how I move forward. There's something different now. The tension hasn't disappeared, but it's transformed. Less like a confrontation. More like a collision that's already happened. And now everyone is standing in the aftermath, trying to understand what it means. Sunny leans back slightly, her expression softer, but not fully resolved. So you accept it? She asks. Emma nods just once. I have to. A pause. And what does that acceptance look like? Sunny continues. Emma looks down briefly, then back up. It looks like continuing to listen, she says. Even when it's uncomfortable. It looks like being willing to be wrong, and not running from that. The audience begins to respond, quietly at first. A few nods, a few soft claps. But it builds, because something about this moment feels real. Not rehearsed, not packaged. Real. Sunny tilts her head slightly, considering. And what about the people who feel like the damage is already done? She asks. Who don't want more conversation, who just want accountability. Emma doesn't hesitate this time. Then they're allowed to feel that way, she says. And I have to respect it, even if it's hard to hear. That lands. And this time, the audience responds more strongly, applause breaking out, more unified than before. Not overwhelming, but steady. Whoopi finally leans in, her voice calm but grounded. That's the thing about these conversations, she says. They don't end clean. The tension breaks, just slightly. Not with laughter, but with recognition. Sunny nods slowly. No, they don't, she agrees. And for a brief moment, it feels like the storm has passed. But what no one in that room fully realizes yet is that the real storm is just beginning, because the cameras are still rolling. And beyond them, millions are watching. The segment wraps not with a dramatic conclusion, but with something quieter. A thank you, a transition, a shift to the next topic that feels almost surreal after what just happened. But the energy doesn't reset. It lingers. In the way the audience files out more slowly than usual. In the way the hosts exchange glances off camera, unspoken but loaded. In the way Emma Stone steps backstage, her expression thoughtful, distant, as if she's still inside the conversation even after it's ended. And then, the world outside catches up. Within minutes, clips begin to circulate. Short segments at first. A question. A response. A moment of silence stretched just long enough to feel uncomfortable. Then longer cuts. Context. Reactions. The internet does what it always does, but faster this time. Sharper. Divided. Some praise Emma, calling her honest. Grounded. Willing to engage without defensiveness. Others side with Sunny, saying she asked the questions that needed to be asked, that she held the line when it mattered. And then there are those who don't pick a side at all, who watch the exchange and see something bigger than either of them. A reflection of how conversations have changed, of how difficult it's become to speak, to listen, to disagree, without it turning into something more. Headlines start appearing. Unexpected clash on daytime TV. Emma Stone and Sunny Hostin's heated exchange sparks debate. Was it accountability or confrontation? Social media becomes a battlefield of interpretations. Clips are replayed, dissected, reframed. Every word examined. Every pause analyzed. And in the middle of it all, that question, are you prepared for the idea that people won't forgive you? It echoes, not just for Emma, but for everyone watching. Back in the studio, long after the audience has gone and the lights have dimmed, there's a quiet that settles over the set. The kind of quiet that only comes after something significant. Something that can't be undone. Emma leaves without fanfare. No dramatic exit. No final statement. Just a quiet walk through a hallway that suddenly feels much longer than it did before. Sunny remains a little longer, speaking with producers, her expression composed, but thoughtful. Because even for her, this wasn't just another segment. This was something else. Something that blurred the line between interview and confrontation. Between conversation and consequence. And somewhere in between, a moment that people won't forget. Because it wasn't about who won. It wasn't about who was right. It was about what happens when two people refuse to step back. When the script disappears. When the conversation becomes real. And that's what stays with people. Long after the clip ends. Long after the headlines fade. That feeling. That tension. That question of where we stand when the conversation turns toward us. So now it comes to you. You've seen the moment. You've felt the tension. You've heard both sides. But what do you think? Was Emma Stone right to stand her ground and push for open conversation? Or did Sunny Hostin draw an important line that needed to be held? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear your perspective. And if you want more stories that pull you inside moments like this, the ones that don't fade when the cameras stop rolling, make sure you subscribe to Stage View, hit that like button, and stay tuned. Because the next story might be even more explosive.